Hi, Connor.
Hello, Connor just stepped out.
Oh,
How's everybody doing?
not bad. Is this Austin?
Good.
Yes, I'm here too.
It's Austin and Sean Machado. We're here with Councilor Leahy and Representative Elliott. And Connor is back.
Special counsel representative. It's finally coming in. Oh, good.
Alright.
Maybe behind me. They open it. Oh.
Okay.
No. I was getting on my cards. And then I'm like, oh, this is
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Is it 6?
wild.
Yeah. 6 o'clock.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to the SBC meeting. I'd like to accept the communication remote Zoom participation.
Second.
Second.
So, and then are we good?
Yep.
Okay. We'll do a roll call.
Manager Golden. Mike Vaughn,
Here.
Connie Martin. Dr. Boyd. Richard Underwood. Michael Fiato. Connor Baldwin,
Present.
Mark Byrne,
Present.
James Hall. Mayor Chow. David Peasley. William Samaras. Senator Kennedy.
Present.
Councilor Leahy.
Here.
Representative Elliott.
Here.
Mary Ann Manzi.
Here.
Jay Mason.
Here.
Maria Sheehy. Benjamin Opara.
Yeah.
Erica Harvey. John Haley. Nine if you don't count there. Yes. Yep, so 9. 9 present.
So we only have 9. We don't have enough for a quorum. I'll kick it to Jim. I'll kick it to Connor. If you guys want to do your presentation, if somebody shows up late, we'll accept the minutes from the previous meeting.
Mr. Manager,
Yes?
I think the school committee is replacing Connie Martin with Eileen Del Rossi. I think they did that last night. So I think that you still need to make that appointment, but I think it's their preference to have Eileen Del Rossi be their representative going forward.
Okay. We'll connect with her and,
Yeah, they just voted last night.
okay.
We'll make that adjustment. Thank you, Senator.
Okay.
Good evening,
So
everyone.
Connor, if you want
We'll
to.
start off with the Lowell High School construction update for May 2023. So for phase 2, currently going on this month in May, we have begun exterior framing of the side of the exterior of the building, and then we also began the slab on grade at the main entrance and also building F. And then today we actually loaded the roof, so we'll begin roofing on building F in the main entrance as well. Structural steel, building F is substantially complete. We'll be wrapping up on the bridge in about a week, which is that South Bridge steel. And then building D is ongoing. Looking ahead, moving on to June, next month, we're gonna start the exterior sheathing at building F, which is the Freshman Academy. And then we'll also begin the slab on grade at building D as well. And then moving back to building F, we're gonna complete the interior spray fireproofing. And then the roof will also be weather tight by end of June. And then in July, that's when we're gonna start with all of the facade work. You're gonna start seeing the masonry, the brick, the curtain wall, storefront, all of that's gonna start in July. And then we're also gonna be looking into building D roof weather tight as well. Any questions on any of the construction activities? Okay. The next slides, I'm just gonna show.
All right,
just-
we have a
Connor.
question here.
Connor.
One question.
Council
Yeah.
Leahy.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. One thing I noticed in the last couple of weeks is can you go back a slide?
Sure.
So the parking along the gymnasium side that comes from Cobblestones out to Arcan Drive.
Right here.
Yes, no, the other side. Right where yeah, right there. Yep.
Right there.
We need some signage. When I was there a couple weeks ago, there were cars and buses blocking the whole street. So we need to decide that buses park there only, or cars, or bus parking during games. But it needs to be clear because it was blocked off. So I don't know who's responsible for the signage, the city or everybody or Suffolk or whatever, but it needs to be clear on where we want people to park and where we want people to travel.
Counselor,
Yeah,
we already have there's already been a bulletin issued to Suffolk to install those signs. So that is already in the works. The school has also issued directives to the staff not to park there. We can speak with Mr. Fiato about the school enforcing that more. I know there's a lot of staff parking in there, but we can speak with the school also.
okay. It's been a couple of weeks, so how long do you think it'll take to get signs up?
We can get temporary signs up in Pownell. We can do that probably by midweek next week.
Temp signs are usually just about a week turnover.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, so moving back to the photos on construction update. This is just a view from the Freshman Academy looking into building D, which is the building that we're building right now that's connecting to the gym that we turned over last fall. And this is just a ground level view of the same building. And then also in the interior of building F, we have started with some masonry work. Here you'll see that the PE1 elevator shaft has been constructed up to level 2. And then the slab on grade placement from yesterday for building F as well. Moving on to the MBE WBE progress for this month. The minority workforce is at 24.7%, which is about the same holding from last month. Female workforce is at 3.8%. And then the total construction low resident is at 10.6%. And we've been having weekly calls with the subs just to try to see if we can increase the female workforce. Minority workforce right now, we're exceeding the goals. But we're looking to increase the female workforce, and with the new trades coming on site in the next couple of months, we should be able to do that.
So you expect, I'm sorry, Pana,
Yes,
you expect these numbers to increase? So reading through the minutes from last month, I thought that by now there should have been some increase, especially with the women workforce.
yes. So the women workforce has been holding, but we still need to increase it in order to meet our goal. We have In Order Business, Shelley Webster. She's like our consultant, and she's been reaching out to subs to see what they can do about getting the workforce for the women female participation. So like today we had 3 calls today just to see if we can get more women into the subcontractors payroll.
Is there a time frame to fulfill that requirement? Is there any mandatory time frame to fulfill that now?
Yes, so it's throughout the rest of the project, and as I mentioned, as the new trades are coming on site, we always tell them like, hey, there is a MWBE goal that they have to meet, and they always work on submitting on the best faith effort as well, and trying to get the minority, the local, and the female workforce.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to designer update.
Excuse me, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I saw part of the slides, this is Bill Samaras, but the thing is, a question I want to ask, when you're talking about the freshman academy,
Mhm.
are we gonna have like pictures, artistic renderings of what the floors will look like? And the issue is that we've been caught, like we were caught in the gymnasium, not knowing how many bathrooms were going to be available. We knew that the company said they brought everything into code, but the high school is bigger than most high schools, and code doesn't necessarily meet the requirements and the needs of the high school. So how do I get information like how many bathrooms are per floor, male and female? What type of classroom space is going to be available? How do we get that? Hello?
We can have, we don't have those drawings on hand, right now. We could ask, Robin, with Perkins Eastman to do a presentation to that effect, next SBC.
But you understand the criticisms the subcommittee or the committee on the high school is getting, not knowing certain things. And like, there was a lot of criticism about the bathroom space in the gymnasium, as you know, okay? But the thing is, as everybody stated, you met code, MSBA code and what have you. But because of the high school size and what have you, at least we would like to negotiate with, as committee members, negotiate with you regarding that. So, I mean, that's what I'm looking for. You know, how do we look at information and get and have a clear picture of what is going on? Because, you know, we have these quick pictures, everything's going, you know, will be done by such and such date, such and such date. But do you follow on, trying to get across? You know, we need to have a bigger picture, so to speak, if that's possible. And that would be, like I said, artistic renderings or what have you, or that type of listing.
We can put together a package with some artistic renderings and some floor plans, if that would work. We'd ask Perkins Eastman to put that together.
Yeah, you know, that would help. Thank you.
We can do that.
So, excuse me, can I add to that? Could you include with that a little summary or a little narrative that would go along with the renderings and the floor plans that you have, so that maybe there's things that you would want to point out or that we would be looking for that you could include in a narrative that could accompany those?
Can I just add something? We don't want to make this public for school security purposes. If we could keep it in-house, Jim is more than willing to meet with any individuals privately, but we don't want, for security purposes of the school and with everything going on, we don't want this out in the open. I just want to make that clear. I don't know if it's a good idea to blast out all these floor plans with everything that's going on. I mean, obviously everyone here is entitled to look at these, but I don't know if it's something we want made public. I just want to throw that out there.
No, I can understand that. Sorry, but the senators talking about, at least we got to have, you know, as much information in the sense of, or a chance to have some observation, whether, you know, it's these meetings here. I'm not stating that you have to give us, you know, the handouts, but the thing is to be at these meetings. And another suggestion I would have is that perhaps every third meeting, rather than be a Zoom meeting, be a meeting, you know, a live meeting, so we can, you know, be close to everything, see the an enhanced version of it rather than through our phone or you know, computer. And just another suggestion to make sure that we're cognizant of what is going on.
We will
and
have.
what we need to know.
We can have further discussions with the city manager's office. We're trying to, as Mr. Machado stated, we're trying to strike a balance with not getting all the floor plans out in the public domain for security reasons. And
So
also keeping you informed at the
that's
same
okay.
time.
I can live with that.
Jim, I think this is
is
Yeah.
related to the item number 7 on the agenda, which I don't know if we'll get to because we don't have a quorum. But I agree that project drawings being distributed to the entire committee might be an issue in terms of security and getting out in front of the public. But I think having a summary schedule and getting the notes from the OAC meetings, it gives us an opportunity to be better prepared to ask intelligent questions and have fundamental information to be able to think through possible issues like the restaurant, like the restroom problem that we had.
Like we're working with the city manager on the information and how to present it.
Okay, moving on to designer update. I'll turn this over to Robin if you have anything.
Hi, I don't have anything to share, but I am available to answer any questions.
Okay, no questions. So moving on to budget, Jim.
Yes, the budget, to date, we have received $83.8 million in reimbursement from the MSBA. The key numbers that are changing on this presentation are the construction contingency, because that is where change orders are charged to. We are up to 10 change orders totaling $1.7 million. We still have $19.4 million remaining in contingency, which we still remain on a good pace with usage of contingency. Regarding the owner contingency, we are currently reviewing $151,000 that will be charged to owner contingency, and the construction manager's contingency that is contained within Suffolk's contract. They have spent $973,000 of $7.1 million. Again, that is an appropriate pace. Moving on to the next slide. This is a condensed version of the budget. We've spent a $128 million, $0.9 million has been invoiced to date. The total invoices that issued to the city manager's office on Tuesday for the month of April was $6.5 million. Again, an appropriate pace. If anyone has any questions.
Yeah, could you send us this? Just email it after the meeting. So, I mean, my version of the budget update is miniature to the point where I can't see these numbers really. So it's almost just, this doesn't work for me. But if you would be able to email maybe a larger version or a version that I could enlarge on my computer so that it would be legible. Is that something you can do?
The presentation in PDF, the city manager's office has that. If I believe that could be distributed after the meeting.
Yeah, that would, I mean, we do need that.
So are we going to be able to, is that going to happen?
Buddy? I'm sorry. Yes, we can get that to everybody.
Sorry, Jim, can you go back one screen, please? Thank you. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Jim, I have one question about the construction contingency. You keep saying this is on, we understand it's a good pace, but is this a good pace for new construction? Are we concerned that we're going through it more, or is this what you expected for the new construction? Because we haven't hit the rehab portion yet, where I expect a lot more unknowns.
Absolutely, and the pace, we're at a slower pace now, which is where we want to be because it's the new construction, and we foresee that once we get into more unknowns in the 1980 building and in the 1922 building, we will encounter more changes. But If you look at 1.7 out of 21 million, we're really not that far into it, whereas we've total spent to date is 133 million on the 380. So that's like a third. We're over a third in the project, and we have not burned a third of the contingency, not even close to a third. So we're in pretty good shape there.
But I think Mike's question is, we're in good shape right now with the new construction, but when we do get into the 1922 building, do you anticipate that that will be where all the change orders will be needed, and or the 19 million will be needed? And do you anticipate that's going to be enough?
We do anticipate that's going to be enough, and we do anticipate that the pace of going through that is going to increase. But if we were at a larger number than much larger number than the 1.7 million now, that wouldn't be a comfortable position to be in. But the fact that we're only at 1.7 million, and we have significant funds remaining going into the hard part of the job.
Okay.
Steps, Jim?
I've got a quick question on the math. The number is 1.7, Jim, for change orders in general.
So far.
Okay, so that's roughly like 1.3% of the 133 million. Is that the right way to look at it?
Jim, you're on mute.
The percentage that we've spent of the contingency is.
No, I'm asking you, Jim, is the contingency spent, the 1.7, expressed as a percentage of the total budget of total spent so far of 133? I'm getting 1.3% of that. That seems pretty good.
Yes. I mean, especially given that the 21 million is on the 381 is 5%, off the top of my head, 5%.
Yeah.
Of the overall
5 or
budget.
7%.
So the fact that our pace is between 1 and 2, whereas we've got 5 on hand, that is a good pace, especially since we're in phases 3 and 4, we will be going into sections where we will be spending more contingency. So we're below average now, but we probably will have portions where our spending will be above the average, and so that's why we're on that pace to keep it appropriate in the end, which is where we're tracking.
Any other questions?
Just-
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can we go back to that slide one more time? But yeah, that one. Okay, so the 1.7 really is closer to 1.8, right? And then we've got pending a little over $1 million in pending changes, which I'm assuming most of those will probably be honored. And so that means we're at 2.8 just about, right? Out of
Sure. Out of 21.
out of the 21.
Yep.
Okay, so we've used a little over, what's that, 10%? At this point, we still have a good amount of contingency left, but I think everybody's a little apprehensive about what we're gonna find in the 1922 building. And so do you have any idea of what the change orders are? Have you identified any change orders that are gonna be necessary in the 22 building at this point, or do we have to wait until we get to that phase?
We have not identified any change orders yet in that building. There's been a couple bulletins issued by Perkins Eastman addressing a couple items, but we're really going to hit the change orders when we open the walls. That's why we have the a healthy contingency there to start with, and the entire project team put a lot of thought into that, and we feel like it is appropriate to finish the project on budget.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Can I ask you a question, Sean? Sure. I think this is for Jim. Based on some of the questions here from the committee, I wonder if it might make sense, Jim, at one of the future meetings to provide some kind of a summary, either of, by trade, of the change orders that we've seen to date, just for the committee's awareness, and maybe some additional information where some of the PCOs or the change orders, they do have deducts. Representative Elliott brought up a point. But there are sometimes reductions in costs. Is that right, Jim, with the change orders? You're muted.
Yes, we definitely have deductive change orders. In fact, we've had some changes with significant deducts. And also some of the changes that pending changes, that 1 million number, that will go down, because these are thoroughly vetted, negotiated. And there's one significant change in there that's included that has been declined. So we're keeping the numbers in there so that we know what's on hand, but that number they get thoroughly negotiated, and the numbers when they come in are not what end up being finalized.
Can you tell us more about the one that was declined and why it was declined?
There was the demolition contractor went over their allowance for disposal of materials. We felt that how they classified those materials was incorrect, and that change was declined. Our consultant, who was reviewing the materials as they were going out, provided input and advised us to decline how those materials were disposed of. That the contractor, that was not an appropriate change.
What was the amount of that change order? Do you recall?
$249,000.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
I have just one last question. I know we're very concerned about the bathrooms based on what happened at the gymnasium, field house. Is there the bathrooms on the rest of these floors that we're building brand new, taking in consideration the larger size of the school, or is it still following MSBA guidelines?
I would defer to Robin and Joe on the call for that.
So bathroom is determined by the occupancy, which is not an MSBA, it's a plumbing code determination of percentages of male and female per toilet. So as the school size was, designing for 3,520 students, and then for the staff, the toilet count was based on that.
Was that also how the same configuration for the field house was thought?
So plumbing is done on a school-wide basis. It's not done by wing. And then we spread the bathrooms throughout in order to have, access.
Okay. So I guess my question is, if you can't show us the drawings, and I understand that, can we get a breakout somehow in a written narrative of per floor, how many students are on per floor and how many facilities are on per floor for each?
I could give you toilets per floor. I can't give you students per floor exactly, only because students are always moving and not the capacity of a floor doesn't reflect how many kids are on each floor at any given time. So, you know, there could be some parts of the day that more science classrooms are in use than English. And so we're not designing by kids per floor on the schedule. It's a total student population.
Robin,
that-
you also went back and reviewed all of the bathrooms and did a presentation to the city council. I believe that was back in March.
Yes.
So
But that was just dealing with the gymnasium.
they did an assessment of the entire school and went and met with the city council back in March. Robin, that was the entire school, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
But I don't think they got to understand really how much. I mean, because you're putting all the numbers together. And I think what was asked is the same request that I'm making. In other words, we don't have to have plans, but we have to have an idea per floor. You know, if you have 20 classrooms or 10 classrooms, and you know approximately how many will utilize those rooms during each period, but there's an expectation of are there bathrooms on each floor?
Yes.
Or is it designed where students have to go down 2 floors or a distance?
No, the plumbing code actually has limitations on travel distance between bathrooms, thinking both horizontally and vertically. So there are student bathrooms and staff bathrooms on every floor in each wing, both sides of the canal. As part of the planning process, that was what was provided.
Okay. Can I ask you this? If we found that the number of fixtures in the restrooms at the gymnasium were inadequate and we had to increase that, and if you did an assessment of the entire complex, high school complex, what did that assessment show? Did you have to increase the number of bathroom fixtures in other restrooms? Or what happened with that assessment, I guess is my question.
The assessment found that total fixtures on the campus was fine.
Okay.
So we have since added some adjacent to the gymnasium from a convenience and some operational reasons. But it was not because the total count was less than what was accepted by the building officials when they reviewed the permit.
No, I understand that, but when you did the assessment, you didn't find it necessary to increase the number of fixtures in any of the restrooms throughout the rest of the high school complex?
Correct.
That's correct. Okay.
But
Thanks.
I think that, Senator, I think that's the question that we had originally. Because when we were questioning them about the number of facilities in the gymnasium, it said they met code and established by the MSBA what we can do and not do. Now we're hearing it's based on a plumbing code where it's the number of students. But you know, it's still, we still don't get the information where we can say with any assurity, yes, as a commission looking at the building, we understand clearly what's going to be available or not. And I think that's what we're all trying to say, that we don't really have a clear picture. It's to me, it's muddled. You know, and unless you have the actual plans in front of you, I mean, it's very difficult to say that the school is been designed and meeting the needs as we see it.
So anyways, you're confident that after doing that assessment, that the number of fixtures in each of the restrooms throughout the rest of the high school are adequate, and that we're not going to have to do a change order or change things around as when we get to those phases. Is that correct?
I'm confident we meet the plumbing code. So operationally, I can't speak to that. The school would have to weigh in, which is what they did with the concerns at the gymnasium.
Well, we met the plumbing code over at the gymnasium, and then we had to add fixtures. So using the plumbing code as a benchmark probably isn't the right way to do it. It's probably more to, I just wonder what went into your assessment other than we met the plumbing code, because that's what you were telling us at the gymnasium, and then we had to change it.
Robin, I think we might feel a little more comfortable if Perkins Eastman took a look at the same sort of environment of those other spaces with the same lens that was used to make the changes that we just made in the gym, and kind of give us a report.
I think the pertinent question we should be asking is, the plumbing code, is it predicated upon the size of facility or the number of students? Because if they're able to answer those questions, then it will allay some of the fears and concerns that this body has.
So plumbing code is determined by number of people using it, and then they have rules on distances to toilets. There is no guidance on size of facility beyond that. No, number of users does take into account a space, per person, but it's not, I guess, I don't know how else to explain it. Jim, I don't know if it's useful for this conversation. I did find my city council presentation, and in it I have 2 slides that show 2 floors and the distribution of the bathrooms that I could show for you guys. If it just shows, so you can see kind of the distribution. It's of a scale that you can't really see the detail, but you can kind of see the distribution, how spread out amongst the school. But that's,
I think that would address concerns, and that was already presented in the public.
I'll stop sharing, Robin.
I probably need permission. Oh, no, I guess I haven't. Okay. So are you guys seeing a floor plan?
Yes.
So this floor plan represents the change that we did make as a reminder, but let me just go into showing. So student toilets are, prior to the change here, is where these burgundy squares are. So this is the first floor of the gymnasium. That's those locker rooms that have been discussed. Here's the new space that we added bathrooms. The Freshman Academy has a multi-user boys and girls bathroom. On this wing, in the center of the school, these toilets are available for, both adjacent to the cafeteria, restaurant, and these spaces on the East Campus, the 1920s buildings. There are 3 pairs of bathrooms for students in the entry of the building, in the middle of the building, and at the southern end of the building. And then similarly on the second floor. So the locker rooms, as you're familiar with in the gymnasium, a boys and girls room in the middle of the building. The Freshman Academy has a boys and girls room. And then again in the east, northern end, middle section, southern end. So as you can see, we wanted to make sure that there was a convenience and distance, consideration for all the bathrooms. Does this help the committee?
Yes, Robin, would you mind speaking to the bathroom issue at the cafeteria, where there was some discussion in one of our last meetings about the mixing of folks off the street, if you will, with students?
Cafeteria or restaurant, Jay?
I think the restaurant.
With the school, the design was that the bathroom was the same. I went back after hearing concerns to user notes, and that was discussed, and they had said that their current operation is that there's no designated restaurant bathroom, and that's what we were asked to design to. So, you know, in addition to these locations, there are staff bathrooms as well. These are just the student ones labeled. But we were not asked to, you know, sense that discussion in the user group meetings many years ago. It's what we provided.
Also, if you look at the current number of bathrooms in the high school that are open, it is going to increase. The 1980 building right now, the only bathrooms that can be used by the students are currently on the second floor at the south end. If you look at actually, I believe the bathrooms are inaccessible to old ones on the first floor. And we have had no issues in the 1980 building with the restrooms that are just on the second floor. The third floor is for teachers only. Those are locked, and there have been no issues. And we are going to end up in the end, I believe, with more bathrooms than they are currently functioning with. So I understand that there was a concern in the gymnasium, but I do not think there's going to be a need for a concern when you look at how they're operating right now versus what there's going to be in the end. Robin,
But
would you
that's the
agree with that?
information that's the information we need, because it wasn't adequate in the Lord building. It was problematic.
Jim, I apologize. I actually don't know. I know when we did our analysis years ago, which were identified as student bathrooms. Post-COVID, I think there's been some changes and we haven't gone back. So I can't speak to which bathrooms are student and staff. I know where there's some toilets, and I apologize. I just don't know that info.
I just know that what we have not received any complaints from the administration for the number of bathrooms they're functioning with right now. And at quick glance, it appears that what's going to be there in the end is going to be more than what is there right now. We can take a look at that comparison also.
That's the information I think this group needs, if it's to have any input.
So this is my last question on this issue. I think there's two things, right? There's how many restrooms are there? And it sounds like you think there's an adequate number of restrooms in the high school complex. The second question is the fixtures within those restrooms. And do you know whether there'll be an increase or a decrease of the fixtures compared to the way it is now? Or, I mean, will it be the same? Will it be an increase, or do you not know that?
I don't remember the figures, Mr. Kennedy, but I can look it up.
And if you look it up, can you send it to me?
Yes, I'll send it to the city manager for distribution.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this? If we could, I know Mr. Samaras joined us late. That gets us to 10. Did anybody else happen to jump in? We need 11 for a quorum, so I'm just asking that. Still at 10. Okay, so we don't have enough for a quorum. So I guess we'll revisit those motions for next month and vote on those. Vote to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, could you tell me what is the date for the next meeting?
We don't have one set just yet. Jim, do you have an idea?
Give me a second to look at the calendar. Thursday.
The 15th.
We can do Thursday the 15th or Thursday the 22nd.
Thursday the 15th.
I would go
Thursday
for
the 15th. Right.
I'd suggest we do June 15th, and if it seems like we're not going to have a quorum on the 15th, then we can try for the 22nd. The 22nd brings us closer and closer to the time when people are taking vacations, and it might be more difficult to get people on the 22nd than the 15th, but it would be good if we could end up with a quorum so that we could take any votes that we want to take on the 15th.
I will also try to reach out to some members that haven't joined us just to see if we can make sure and try and get them on the 15th.
Yeah, that brings up the question I have, because I haven't been receiving notices. So I wonder whether, I don't know if I fell through the cracks, and I wonder how many people that fell through the cracks also. That's why we're having difficulty getting.
So far, you haven't been receiving emails?
Yes, but I received this last one, but I've been wondering why I haven't been receiving emails.
Okay.
Suddenly I received it, this last one.
Could you shoot me an email just to make sure we have your right email?
Sure.
My email is smachado@lowellma.gov.
Sure, I'll shoot you an email.
We'll make sure you're getting them. And I'll, like I said, I'll try to reach out to some members that haven't attended, and hopefully we can start getting quorums.
Can I
With
ask
res-
one last question?
With respect to Senator Kennedy's opinion about a meeting, I just want to point out, I can't make the 15th. Maybe I can switch that around. It's a ribbon cutting. But I'd love to be at the next meeting if I could.
Okay. I'm sorry, Mr. Mason, did you say you were going to try to make adjustments to attend the 15th?
It's a ribbon cutting. I don't know that I can. So I'm kind of stuck, I think.
It might be a good idea to just take a poll of the members and just see whether the 15th or the 22nd is going to be best, and go with whatever is the greatest number so that we can be sure that we have a quorum at the next meeting.
Okay. Do we want to just make it for the 22nd, or we could shoot out an email and just do the poll?
The poll will be helpful.
Okay. We'll get that out.
One last question.
Councilor Leahy has a question.
One last question, maybe it's too early. But I remember, do you have the date when we put the ceiling? We ended up having to do a new roof on the 1922 building. We had to do a wall repair, and then we had to do a new roof, so
2017, maybe
2017 or 18, and I was just wondering, will that have any effect on the bottom line? Will that whole roof have to be ripped up again, or can we use the new roof? And maybe it's too early, but that was my question.
It's going to be ripped up. We had a very lengthy discussion 5 years ago on that, and there's so much work on the roof that it was not feasible warranty wise to keep, and all the cuts we were going to have to make in it to keep it. And I know that I believe they put in the least expensive roof to get through the 8 years they needed to get through, but we had very detailed conversations back then. Connor, I believe you were around back then. We went
back to me now.
We put a lot of thought into that, and it's going to end up with a new roof.
All right, thank you.
Also, I'd like to correct one thing I said. The operating bathrooms on the there are first and second floor bathrooms in the 1980s. I misspoke earlier.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or anything they want to bring up? Vote to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.